to the cloud. I think if you go to our YouTube playlist, I think we have like 120 like past Texas power ups. In case you ever want to look something up, you can always find it there. We are kicking off the third quarter this morning, which is pretty exciting. And let's start off with shout outs, gratitude, any Brivity wins. Get your hand up, get ready to go. Valencia, good morning.
Hey, good morning. A huge shout out to Brandon and Jaime. We had a lead come into Berivity. So I guess it is a Berivity win also. It just grabbed someone from a completely different part of Texas. And I reached out to Brandon. He was like, hey, Jaime's your guy. So we all connected and got the lead taken care of. So a huge win for the team as well as Berivity.
Oh, I love that. Way to go, Valencia. And Jaime and Brandon, that is some serious teamwork. I love it. Sarah, good morning.
Good morning. Well, I am extremely grateful, and I'm honestly like, is this real? But I officially, semi-officially, because within 48 hours, the contract will be signed. But last night, my very first buyer ever, put his earnest money down for his new build. And I just received the broker representation form, and it's signed, and it says that my commission and I'm like, hallelujah, it's coming.
Oh man, you definitely speak exactly how we all felt with our very first deal. Like you embody that. Congratulations, so happy for you, Sarah.
Thank you very much.
Way to go. Any other shout outs or any other gratitude this morning that we want to make sure is out there? As you're thinking about it, if you have something, I want to shout out my Austin team. We made a big change in our lead/business process this week, which was a big change. We haven't had a change in probably 5 years. And I'm just so appreciative that they always trust us to do what's right to get higher conversion, and we will let you know how it goes. We're going to get really, really serious about our database and our Brivity folks. So I appreciate the trust there, and I appreciate the fact that just because we've done something for years and years doesn't mean that we can't level up. And it's I appreciate the fact that we are ready to level up. Jordan, good morning.
Good morning. I want to shout out Davis team. Last month we hit millionaire real estate agent again for the year. So we got $1 million in GCI and took a record number of listings, 16 listings as a team, I think 16 or 17.
I love that. Oh my God, that's a lot of freaking listings. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Love that. Go Davis team. And Liliana, good morning.
Hi, good morning. I want to give a shout out to Michael Aguirre for all his help he's given me. I am having my first closing today. I'm very excited too. I'm dancing too.
Yes, you are. I can feel that dance. I love that, Michael. Thank you for being such a leader in your team. That's a really great share. I appreciate that. Awesome.
Thank you. Bye.
I want to shout out Caitlin Wells in Austin, who bought a house last week. And I want to shout out Ashley on our team in Austin, who also bought a house last week, her first house. So that wealth building is happening, right? It's about that time. So don't let that market scare you. It is a good time to be buying and selling, right? So this morning, as we switch over, talking about kicking off the third quarter, in May, we talked to Laura Castillo, and today we're going to talk to Jordan Davis. And the reason we're doing that is one of the main things when I asked for feedback of like, okay, what else would you guys like to see on these Texas Power Ups? Over and over, it came up, hey, we want to know how the leaders got here. Like, what did that look like? Was it an overnight success? Did it take forever? What were like the barriers? What did we have to overcome? What did that journey look like? Because we see people as they are today, right? And if I asked any of you, gosh, how did you get here? There's a story there, right? And so this morning we get to connect with Jordan. And what I love about it is that a lot of us know Jordan. If we know her like the Zoom version, like unless you're on her team, we know Zoom Jordan, which is really, really a great place to start. And so Jordan's going to take us from probably 30% of what we probably know about her to a whole lot more this morning. So I'm excited about that. Before we get started, bullet points, like where do you live for everybody who doesn't know? Like, do you have a family? Like, do you have a team? What does that all look like? And then we can jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, I'm Jordan Davis, if you don't know me. And I got into real estate 9 years ago next month. I have two wonderful boys who are 7 and 10, Aiden and Carson. They're in alphabetical order. If you ever don't know which one is which, the A is first. It makes it easy. And a husband, Matt, who was in the business with me for a while. Let's see, I have the opportunity every day to wake up and run the Davis team, which is the greatest opportunity and blessing of my life, other than children, that I love, who I'm surrounded with, and getting to serve them and helping them achieve their goals. Last year, we closed 230 units for just shy of $2 million in GCI. I'm not from Dallas Fort Worth, so I literally started from nothing with real estate. I didn't inherit a parent's business. I didn't have a sphere to speak of. I'm from Bethany, Oklahoma, and I went to Texas A&M. So I wasn't even really from Dallas Fort Worth when I decided, hey, this will be a good idea to get into real estate and try to sell homes to people I don't know.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Anybody else here from Oklahoma, or anybody else lived in Oklahoma? We have a few Oklahoma people. Okay, cool. Well, you are in good company this morning. So I guess since you grew up in Oklahoma, how did you grow up? Like, walk us back, take us backwards, so that we can get to the present.
Sure. So I am the youngest of 3. I have 2 older brothers. My parents divorced when I was 3. And then we grew up just kind of barely getting by. I know both my parents worked 2 jobs. We had a lot of grandparent involvement in raising us. Some really bad step parents at one point, a lot of moving and divorce. So pretty unstable childhood. It stabilized a lot more about 25 years ago when both my parents got remarried, 20 years ago when both my parents got remarried.
They got remarried to each other?
No, God, no.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to clarify. Okay, got it. Okay, they got remarried to other people.
Yes. In fact, my stepmom is our current nanny, and my stepdad was our first transaction coordinator. So wow. That's pretty cool to bring it full circle for me. But life got a lot more stable as we had dual incomes and opportunities to do things. So high school was like NHS president, super involved, mock trial, editor of the newspaper, and captain of my volleyball team. Ended up going on to get a volleyball scholarship and go on to college. I started at a small Christian school in college and then transitioned. I followed a boy to Texas A&M. It's not the boy I'm currently married to, but everything works out for a reason. So let's see, I came out of college in 2008 as the market was collapsing and we were in like the worst recession we'd ever seen. My father-in-law worked in oil and gas and got us all jobs in oil and gas. So I went from a psychology major to procurement for a oil and gas company. And then my husband had just switched over to corporate benefit insurance, and there were no opportunities coming up for him to get out of training and go in to take on a territory because everybody was hanging on to their jobs. So an opportunity came up in Miami, and he's like, what do you think about moving to Miami? And I'm like, why not? So we moved to Miami for 3 years, and I worked in education, Kaplan, who you guys probably did a lot of your real estate education through, in procurement, and then was a stay-at-home mom. Came home to have Aiden, back to Dallas, where my dad is born and raised and was currently living, and my grandparents, when I got pregnant with Aiden. And that's kind of me in a gist.
Okay, so I love that there wasn't like this, like, oh my God, this massive trajectory to who you are now in terms of like, this is what you've always done. No, you were oil and gas, you were Kaplan education, stay-at-home mom, you did quite a bit. And then how did you find real estate? How did that all come about?
We bought a house in Florida, and when we moved back to Texas, we wanted obviously to purchase a home as well, but couldn't because the market hadn't recovered in Florida. And so my dad ended up purchasing a home that we rented from him until we could sell our home in Florida. And we worked with just I can't say it without cussing, a real moron to purchase our home. And I thought, God, if he can do it, I can do this, right? And so I really loved the process of looking at homes, and the whole process of getting qualified was chaotic and horrible, and closing was just a disaster. And so I just thought, wow, I think I could really do this better. And if he can make it in this industry, I think I can too.
Did anybody ever feel like that? Has anybody had a remote experience like that? Right. There's a few people.
A couple of you, I was your realtor, so you better not raise your hand.
Right on. So, okay. So you're growing up, you got into real estate. At any point, did you see your life becoming what it is today? Like as big and as full of a life? Or like, what was your mindset like, even as you were growing up or as you were starting this career? Like, what did you think your life was going to look like? Did you have any idea?
No, not really, because I always was just kind of weird and didn't fit in. I felt like I didn't like fit in my hometown small town of Bethany, Oklahoma. I didn't know why. I thought it was me. And so I just knew something was wrong. And when I got out and got to College Station, and what I love about moving or changing or starting something new is you always get to take the best version of yourself into it and leave the rest behind that you don't want. And so what I now know is that I just was kind of too big for a little town and a little Nazarene church. I had bigger ideas. I had bigger dreams. I wasn't that into all the petty stuff, gossip. I didn't want to sit around on the front porch and gossip and drink sweet tea for the rest of my life. Right. And so I just found that I was like too big, but the way that came across is that I didn't fit in, and I didn't feel like I was a fit. I thought there was something wrong with me. I wasn't enough, something like that. And it turns out I was too much, but I was just in the wrong situation.
That's really good. I love what Valencia just said on chat. She said, take the best, leave the rest, right? And so like my question as you guys are thinking about this is like, when was the last time you remember reinventing yourself, right? Because like, I mean, how old were you around this time?
When I left Oklahoma?
Yeah, like 18?
19.
19, okay. And then when you started in real estate, you were approximately?
Well, I was, gosh, how old was I? 9 years ago, and I'll be 37. So I was about 28, 27, 28 when I got in.
Yeah, I love that. Like that decade, you got to reinvent like a few times over and over.
I moved to Miami. You reinvent yourself. Who do you want to be here? Nobody knows you, right?
And it is sometimes when we hear of people, or when we think about reinventing ourselves, it feels a little scary, almost like we might not be true to ourselves anymore. But the reality is you just become more true to yourself every time you level up, and that's what you've been doing.
I love a phoenix, because they're all about burning down what's current so that you can rise up with better. And I feel like it's like that. And I've always had a really good experience with that. And so I was reading, maybe it was Brene Brown, who had said, the thing about when you figure out that if you just burn it all down and you take the best out and make it better, is every time you find yourself in that rut, you get in a hurry to burn it down as fast as possible, because you can't wait for like what comes out of that ashes.
I love that. I love that. Were there any experiences that shaped who you are, like early on, like in like pre-real estate, other than moving and reinventing yourself every time?
My real estate coach often tells me that everything you need to know to be successful, you probably learned in sports, right? And so it's interesting when I told you that I was like captain and MVP of my volleyball team. I played Junior Olympics and went on to get a college scholarship. But when I was in 8th grade, I played softball and I was terrible and my coach hated me. I learned that my senior year of high school because I had a coach for 3 years in high school. And then my senior year, it's like the worst, I got a new coach, and that could all go wrong, right? You're building all this and then suddenly you get a new coach. And so I knew like I had to prove again to whoever it was, how hard I had worked. My new coach was my 8th grade softball coach.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And I was so excited because I thought he was so fun. And he was like, at the end of my senior year, he said, I literally saw your name and dreaded working with you because I showed up different when I didn't love the sport. I wasn't working hard. It wasn't a fit for me. But when I got into volleyball and I loved it and I was challenged and I found success, it was like I thrived and I was the best, right? And in his memory from me in 8th grade at softball was I was horrible and I complained all the time. And I probably did nothing he said or was always like at the back of the line or, I was like the worst uncoachable person. I just was in the wrong element. And so that was a big thing for me. Not everybody, and it passes through to real estate, not everybody is going to thrive and exist. This wasn't meant for everybody, but for the right people like me, it makes you come alive.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So you started real estate approximately 9 years ago.
Mhm.
Did you have a team at the beginning? What did it look like at the beginning? Like, were you just like a hot shot right away? Did it take some time? I have no idea. So this is all new information to me. So I'm excited.
I'm guessing my team has like bets on when is the minute that I will start crying. I'm sure there's like some back text that I'm not included on, but anyway, so a couple of things. I started out and my stepmom had retired from teaching and she was like, can I keep Aiden, my oldest? And I said, if I can she just needed $12,000 to make up the difference in her salary from before she retired. And so I was like, okay, $1,000 a month is all like I have to cover. And if I can just close like 4 or 5 homes, I'll be good. Right. And that year I closed 17, but a big thing for me was I went to Bold and Kate Podolsky, this is really cool because I had the opportunity this year to tell her full circle what she did for my life, because I'm sure she meets tens of thousands of people that she changes their lives. But she had us talk about like, what is the voice in your head that's telling you can't? What is holding you back? And for me, that voice was my dad's, which my dad and I are very close friends. And I don't think he would ever intentionally say something to hurt me. He unintentionally hurts me a lot. But when I got into real estate, he said, you start things and you don't finish them.
Wow.
And that just rolled around in my head. So in the Bold room, as I'm sitting there just sobbing, Kate decides I should stand up and share what I'm crying about, which is a horrible thing to do to a person. But I had the opportunity to stand up and say, the voice in my head, and I was 2 months in real estate, is my dad's. And it says, you start things and you don't finish them. You start things and you don't finish them. And so Kate stood in the gap for me and she said, so what you're going to do is this week, you're going to finish your 100 connects and you're going to prove to yourself that you finish things. And then you're going to finish Bold and you're going to show yourself time and time again that you finish things. And then you're going to cap this year and you're going to show yourself that you finish things. And you're going to keep proving to yourself until that voice in your head is your voice saying, I start things and I finish them. And that was a big game changer for me, that somebody was willing to stand in the gap for excellence for me when I was really making every excuse under the sun, terrified to call people. From that Bold class, I actually sat down and was like, okay, I got to make 100 connects. I got to talk to 100 people. And one of the people that I knew from Dallas Fort Worth was the pastor who married Matt and I knew he would answer my call. So it would be a connect. And that was Valencia's dad. And I asked him for an opportunity to work with him from a real estate standpoint, if he was interested in knowing what his home was worth. And he said, you know what, Sugar, I am not in a place right now, but when I am, I will call you. His own niece got in real estate. And he still called me because he made a commitment to work with me. And at the closing table, he said, hey, my daughter Valencia just graduated from tech and is looking for a job. You don't have anything for her, do you? And here we are 5.5 years later.
Oh my gosh. I love that. That's amazing. Wow. Everything is so interconnected. Like the world is such a big place, but gosh, it just gets smaller every day. Man, I love being able to look backwards and see that, because if you had not chosen to play all in that day at Bold, right, or any class you would have been in, right, like that experience wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Like, have you always played all in, or like at what point did it switch for you, like where you choose to play all in? Because not everybody plays all in.
I think a big part for me is I went I have a little assistant and we went to, I say little, she's 17. We went to Top Golf the other day and she said, I'm gonna kick your ass. And I was like, you might, you probably will. And I said, do you know that I'm not competitive? And she was like, how are you not competitive? Like, how do you run this big team and you have this big company and you're not competitive? And I said, I will do more when others are counting on me. When it's like, if you put me on a team sport, I will be competitive because I want to win for them. When it's just me, I want everybody in the group to feel included. I want everybody to have fun. I want everybody to have a good time. I want to pay for it because I like have a lot of stress over like finances from when I was a child. And so I don't ever want anybody to worry about finances. And so it's just funny, like I'm not that competitive myself. However, I found when I grew a team, that I knew other people were counting on me. My first transaction coordinator, Charles, my stepdad, had retired and was really kind of depressed about it. And when Papazon was talking to us about what you make dollar per hour, take what you made last year, divide it by 2,000 hours, and that's your dollar per hour. And if you can pay somebody less than that, which for me was like $40 an hour, if you can pay somebody less than that, or at the time it was $40 an hour, if you can pay somebody less than that, then it's worth the leverage to either buy your time back to be with your family or to go do higher dollar producing activities per hour. And so I called Charles and said, hey, I need somebody to do paperwork. I'm working at night. I'm working all day. And he was like, great. Well, I gave him 5 or 7 to 8 hours and he would call back. I was like, how's it going? And he would say, it's great. Do you have anything else? And I found myself going to get transactions because I wanted to fuel him so that he would have things to do during the day. So it wasn't even enough to do it for myself. It was all about when I was on a team and the team was counting on me, and then I'll push harder.
I love that. Did you always see yourself building a team, or did that come about just because you were busy? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah. So no, I thought teams were terrible. I thought teams were where people went when they couldn't make it on their own or they weren't very good, because that really was how the industry looked.
Yeah.
That was how the industry looked 9 years ago when I got in. And so, no, I didn't want to, and I never wanted a person to be seen like that. Right. But that was how our industry thought of it. And we've done a lot. And you know what? Lance Loken in Houston has done a lot to change that mindset on it. But no, so I hired Charles and I found myself doing more to provide for them. And then I had a buyer's agent just step in my world and be like, I want to be your buyer's agent. Let's do this. And I was like, I don't really want a buyer's agent. And then she was like, hey, I'm joining you. Also, I just bought a boat and a truck and I need to pay these bills. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I just found myself continuing to provide so that I could keep up with continuing to provide for her. And that just opened up a world for me. If you know me much, or you've heard me talk personally, not just like on a work subject, you know that I have a big heart for my people and I will do more for them than I will for myself. And so I often like to find opportunities to help them achieve their goals and dreams. I remember helping Valencia be the first person in our family to ever make 6 figures. That was a huge day for me. I remember the call when Amanda said, I made more money than I've ever made in my life. Same from Anne, who's on her 2nd career. I remember when Valencia got a chance to take her kids to the beach, and they had never been to the beach before, but it was because of what we provided that it was giving them opportunities and experiences. You know, Adelina, you actually had a Texas Power Up, and there was a lady on there that said, what would you do if you made twice as much money? Where would you live? And I was like, I live in my house. And she said, what car would you drive? And I was like, I like my car. I would drive my car. What kind of clothes would you have? Like, my world didn't change making double my income, but I really sat and reflected. And I thought, if I make double and my key people who helped me get here are not living their best life and taking vacations and having a blast and investing and growing wealth and leaving legacies for their children, then I failed.
That is an amazing mindset. So really you started a team not even on purpose technically, and you've made it very purposeful, very intentional today. That's what it looks like today. And the reason I think that's important, guys, is we have, at least me, like the voice in my head over and over has always been, if somebody has something today, it's because they must have had everything just happen right. right? Like I grew up in that mindset, and it's not the right mindset. It's not a healthy mindset, because over and over and over, every time we talk to people who have made it to a certain level, that is not what happened in their life. There was a lot of stuff. And I love that it wasn't this whole planned out thing. Like, it's great when there are plans. Like, I love business plans, don't get me wrong, guys. But it's nice that it didn't happen like that. And you got intentional. You kept reinventing yourself, is what I hear.
And Jordan Fried says that a lot of successful people, their success was born out of trauma. They were running away from something. So when you say, like, did their life, line up perfectly? Did they have it all? Were all the options there? But a lot of people, when you look at their success stories, it was their running away from failure, trauma, whatever the case may be. At some point, though, you have to stop and deal with that trauma, so that you can find joy in the journey and find joy in the arrival. Otherwise, you get to where your goal is and you find that it's empty. Is
that something that you've been working on?
Yeah, that's a huge push for me. I sat there a year and a half ago with my coach, and I said, I'm sitting in this room of women that are all talking about problems in their businesses, and I don't have those problems. I've solved those problems. We're there, we've made it. And yet I still feel this emptiness, and I still feel this strive and this not enoughness. And I just said, am I incapable of experiencing joy? Am I incapable of experiencing joy? And Jordan Fried, my coach, said, no, you basically just white knuckled your way through from trauma and a financially unstable childhood. And you've white knuckled your way through to success. And joy is a practice, just like white knuckling your way through throwing everything on your back and just marching on as a practice. You've got to practice joy. So you've got to stop and give gratitude and acknowledge what's going well. And, I'm probably one of the worst for celebrating wins on the team. I just am like, what is the next mountain that we're going to climb? Let's go. And I don't sit and enjoy the view at the top, or the people that I get the opportunity to climb the mountain with. And so I'm stopping to appreciate that and love it, and understand that time has shown me over and over again that we're going to be okay. And so stop worrying about it and just enjoy the journey, enjoy the people you're on with. It's so much fun when we get to do it together and we get to experience life together. I joked with my husband that coming into the team for the husbands of the agents on our team is like Cheers, like going into the bar where everybody knows your name and they're always glad you came. Like Amanda's husband comes in and we're like, Andre, like everybody's so excited, right? And so the environment that you're in is just so worth it. And can you go at it alone and maybe make more money and have less stress, whether you're an agent on our team or you're me? I mean, could I go at it alone and maybe net more money and have less stress? Probably, but I'd also have less joy. And when you numb the pain, you numb the joy. And so you've got to be open to it all.
Man, I really love that. I wrote down joy as a practice, if anybody missed that, because again, my voice in my head says people who are happy, people who have joy, must have it all figured out. It's not a practice, and it is a practice. Other than your team, or maybe this is part of it, anything else to drive you to succeed, or how do you see success nowadays? Because originally it was, make enough money and have a house, like check off those things. What does it look like today? Anything you would add to that?
I think, success for me looks like operating in what fuels me, because days fly by and I don't even notice that they happen. So what can I leverage? What can I give away? What is somebody else talented at? For example, hiring Bart on as our recruiter. What are they talented and fascinated by that allows me to go be in a strength zone that I can, drive more and create more opportunity for our loyal members of our team. And so 80% of my day being in stuff that is my strength zone and my joy zone, that's success for me.
How did you figure out your strength zone? Is that something that like you always knew, or how did you figure that out? Because people ask me that a lot.
I think it's just the things that you find yourself working on after hours and you're not counting the time, or you put your head down and next thing you know, 2 hours has gone by. Like, you're in your strength or joy zone, or you're just fascinated by it. You are looking up articles or reading books on what this is, and that fascinates you. And I find that's your strength zone, and the time flies really fast. And I will tell you, at one time it was taking listings. Now it's not anymore for me. And so it also changes and evolves, but I like to learn something and do it very well and set a standard for our team and set up systems around it to make somebody's life really, really good in that role, and then hand it off to the next person so I can go create what's next. I really love that. That's like the moving all the time and reinventing yourself. I get to take some of the same basic business principles and apply them to something else, some other facet, some other arm of our company, and then find the right person to take that over and hand it off to, inspect what I expect, and then check in once in a while, give them just total empowerment over that role, and then check in and get, reports from them on how things are going. I love that. I love creating that new space.
I love hearing you say that. And I think because a lot of people want to do that. I think in looking at your business and what you do really well is you do get to mastery and then you do it. Like that is the key factor. Like you are a great recruiter, right? You are really great at taking listings. It doesn't mean that you're doing that today, but you got to mastery. And I think that's really special, because it's really great to daydream, and it's a whole nother situation to actually put in the work for the dream. And you've put in the work for the dream.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Is that your big why, or what is your big why right now? What does that look like?
It's just fueling the dreams and providing opportunities and path for the people that help me build it. I love being in their worlds. I love the opportunity that I get every day to lead them. I honestly, sometimes I'm listening to podcasts on my way into the office just so I have food to fuel my team, right? I'm like barely one step ahead of them and they're like chasing me. And so it keeps me on my game to continue providing for them. I love my kids. I love being at events and being with them and being, there was a time when I wasn't, physically present, and there was a time when I wasn't mentally and emotionally present. And so being present at all levels with my family, I have the unique opportunity to live with my dad and stepmom. We have this joint house. It's hard to explain. It's actually two houses combined through a porte cochere.
Jordan has like an estate, essentially.
But it's a really unique opportunity. I didn't grow up with my dad. I grew up with my mom. And so this incredible opportunity to experience my dad and probably, 10, 20 years before he passes. And so just being physically, emotionally, and mentally available to my family. And I find that when you're in your strength zone and your days fly by, you have capacity for that. So yeah.
If someone was struggling finding their big why, do you have any like coaching inspiration for that? Because I do hear that as well sometimes, like, I don't know what my big why is. Like, what would you say to that?
It's interesting, especially at Keller Williams. I feel like we big why shame people, right? Like, oh, you're not like digging water wells for children in Africa, right? Like maybe your big why is like shoes or a house or, something you've never achieved before. But it can be a bunch of little whys that come up to be a big why. And so Jordan Freed actually took us through an exercise where, Bold takes us through an exercise where you write down all your little whys. And what's interesting is when you write them down, you start to find a common denominator. When I was a kid, my mom used to send bills with me, medical bills, and I hated going to any kind of doctor because it meant there would be a bill. And my mom used to send them with me in my suitcase. And I didn't want to give him to my dad at the beginning of the weekend because it would upset him, because honestly, he couldn't afford it. And so I just was like, I'll hold on to this and I'll give it to him later. And every time I opened that suitcase, I would see that bill and my stomach would just sink. And then the next thing I know, I would make it back home to my mom's and I would open my suitcase, and buried under my clothes was that bill. And I'd forgotten to give it to my dad. And probably 2-3 weeks went by that this happened. And the next thing I know, like they were fighting over money in the driveway, and, you never give it, whatever. And I just never want money to be an issue for that. And so I find that a lot of the things that I want to fuel for are me protecting that inner child, that little girl that didn't want to give the bill. And so I pay for a lot of things. I jump, I want to provide opportunities for others. I don't want others to financially struggle. And so I'm always finding a way and figuring it out. And that's where mine fuels from, but I didn't get that overnight. I had to come to understand that because I figured out, why did I go do that? And why did I go do that? It's the same as me not being competitive until I get on a team and I want to win for my team. I care about those around me, and that was what I learned to be my big why. So it's okay, one, if they're small and shallow, and you've got a lot of little small things, you may actually find some bigger trauma that you were never allowed to, like you never had the opportunity to have really nice things because maybe you didn't grow up with those kind of opportunities. And that may be like when you say, I wanted to get this clothing because I'm going to get these shoes, maybe that's because, you didn't have those opportunities. And so that may eventually fuel you to your big why. And there's nothing wrong with finer things in life, and bringing people along the journey with you and giving them that opportunity. But really learning my big why was digging into what are the things that motivate me and keep me up at night, and what pushes me when I'm exhausted. And then it was just a lot of little things and figuring out finally what that big one was.
Which goes exactly to everything you've been saying. It's okay if it evolves.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to start small. It's okay for it to evolve. Like, meet yourself where you are.
Sure.
And then build from there. I love that. When is enough for you? Because you've built, amazing things. This has been a fun journey. Like, if your life, if this was it, like, this was a very successful life, right? We hope we get a ton more of Jordan, years and years and decades, but very successful life. So when is enough?
It's interesting. Chris Suarez talked about this too, on one of our Friday partner calls. And to me, it's already enough. It's more than enough. Like, we've provided for our families and we've provided for other people's families, which is one of the coolest things you'll ever do in your life. When you get to work the opportunity model and you get to build a team within a team and find that you're providing for somebody else's family, it's one of the coolest opportunities you'll ever have in your life. So to me, it's already enough. And it's never enough. As long as we always have willing, and Lindsay's eyes just got huge. As long as we always have like willing, able, excited people with big dreams and goals that want to grow, for me, it's never enough. Let's keep going. Let's keep building. As long as we're having fun and I'm not dragging people, it's a lot easier to pull a string than to try to push a string across the table, right? So I have a big sign in my office that says invest in the motivated. And when the motivated show up, it becomes very easy to be like, let's go. So if they want to go, then it's never enough. Let's keep going.
Man, I love that. It would be like if I ask you guys, when is enough listings enough, right? Well, we're certainly happy with the ones we have, and gosh, invest in the motivated. I love that. Is there, this isn't on our question list, but is there any, as you're looking back, over the last maybe 10 years, is there anything you feel like you learned and would be pertinent to the community that we've built here? Anything that you're like, I would have done this differently, or I would have not sweat that? What would you leave us with if you could leave us with something?
I think show up to everything that you can, that you have time for, even if you just have it on and you're working on something else. There's always something to learn. If you think I can't learn anything from that, or I can't learn anything from that person, maybe learn what not to do, right? Like, that was a horrible presentation. One of the reasons that people show up when I teach is because I always give a ton of value and I leave it on the table. But that's because I went to somebody else's class that I felt like they kept their cards closed. And I was like, well, that was a total waste of time. If anybody ever asks me to speak or wants me to teach something, I'm going to give them everything, all the secrets, everything. And so there's always something to learn, even if it's to learn what not to do. That would be like my very practical thing. My very emotional thing, because I'm always, this vulnerability is my superpower. If you don't heal from who hurt you, you'll bleed on those that didn't cut you. So it's important to take the time to take care of yourself and figure out, where is this coming from? Why is it important? And get to that place of like joy and healing. Otherwise, when you get there, it just still won't be enough.
Can you say that again? If you don't
heal from who hurt you, you'll bleed on those that didn't cut you.
Okay, I know a lot of people were writing that down and then like their eyes popped up because they couldn't get it down fast enough. If you don't heal from who hurt you, you'll bleed on.
I'm pretty sure it's somebody else's quote. You can.
Oh, listen. There's nothing new under the sun. We know that, right? We're constantly evolving the things around us and making it work for where we are and who we are. I love that. Was that good, you guys? That was a good third quarter kickoff, Jordan.
Awesome.
I know, right? Right on. So I know you probably inspired or spoke to a lot of people in the room today. Will you pop your contact information so that if someone, if something really resonated with you and you would like any feedback from Jordan, or you would just like to share that, hey, this really resonated with me. What I do, I pop her, like Jordan's one of my closest friends. I love Jordan. And it was funny yesterday when I had texted her, like it took her like a few hours to respond and she was so apologetic for it. And I'm like, wow, you are like so on it that like a few hours feels like awful to you that to get back to me. Like, you're somebody I look up to. And so I'm so appreciative of our partnership and pouring back into our community here. I love that.
I also want to remind Adelina, and thank you. I feel the exact same way about you. I want to remind everyone that I have a Facebook group, Real Estate Plus Real Life, the plus sign. I put that in the chat. And that's where I share what our team's doing. Like yesterday, I shared our investment strategy on flipping a property and our budget, but also just like 100% vulnerability goes there. So
I love that. Yes. And she's very consistent at adding value in that group. So definitely, if anything resonated with you, I would join that group, and I'd probably save Jordan in my phone. Jordan's team covers Dallas Fort Worth area. They're amazing, and now you know her more than 30%, which is really awesome. And the thing that stands out to me is the Jordan of 20 years ago, the Jordan of 10 years ago, the Jordan of yesterday is not the same Jordan that showed up today. She is constantly evolving, and normalizing that is really, really cool. Really cool. So I appreciate you doing that for us this morning. We will see you again next week. We are full blown in the second half of the year. And back to what Jordan said, if you're not doing it for you, do it for everybody else around you. Because that is pretty powerful. Jordan, thank you so much. It was awesome. We'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.